Football is the ultimate gladiator sport. This goes back centuries. What American football has been able to do is capture what we had back in the days in Rome and this whole gladiator thing. They've captured it in the realm of legal sport where people don't die, contrary to what some people might think. And they've been able to capture that. That's the reason why this game is so exciting. It's not even, there is no other sport that is close to the National Football League in this country. And that you know, it's slowly starting to spread across the pond to other areas in Europe because there's something about the violence, the speed, the power, the combination of all this confluence of all these different things coming together. There's something about that is particularly, you know, tantalizing to the palate of a sports fan.
Think about it. If you're watching a heavyweight fight and the fighters are just jabbing and circling the ring without getting into it, after a period of time, 10, 15, 20 seconds, the crowd's going to start going, boo! And every time there's a crunch, every time there's a crack, every time somebody puts somebody on their back, whenever that contact's made, you hear noise.
That's what they paid their money. They're only upset when it's their player getting knocked out. But as long as their players are doing the hitting, that's what the game is about. It's always been about that.
I know we're here for your entertainment, but after this game is over, after you leave the stands, after you paid your money, after we get our salary, we still got to worry about quality of life for the rest of our lives, and the fans sometimes lose sight of that.
Oh, can you help me, please?
I don't know any professional football players played healthy, 100% healthy, more than a month.
They used to call us the diehards. We never came out of the game, played hurt. There was pressure on you to play hurt because if you didn't, they'll put someone else in there to replace you, and you wouldn't be around. And that was one of the fears about playing this game. You know you had to play hurt because the old saying back in the day was you can't make the club in the tub. And they felt like you weren't a durable guy, would play hurt and would not play hurt, you wouldn't be around long.
You know, I played 5 games with basically if my neck was so bad that if I'd slammed on brakes in my car, I would have been paralyzed for life. And I'm out here playing football, and I strictly remember going out there and tackling Donovan McNabb with no helmet. Because, you know, don't stop during the play. He was there, I had to hit him. But if I knew my neck was like the way it was then, I don't know if I would have hit him.
I broke my right ankle 2 times. Rookie year, had to play with it. We were going to the playoffs. Holmgren says, hey, just give me what you got. It was only about 10 plays, but, you know, I had to play with it.
And that's where the sideline is closed, the locker room is closed. You know as well as I do that the training staff and the doctors and the opinions with the coaching staff and the owners and all that general manager, that whole thing, dude, that is closed. There were numerous guys on my teams that had no idea what the actual injury that they had, what the gravity of it was, what it looked like downside-wise for them to be continuing doing what they were doing, being on the field practicing and playing. I know that wasn't open. You know, when I go back and read the reviews, because I've gone through and I've read my full file from the team, and I know what happened and how I felt, and then I look at what they wrote about that injury. I'm like, what? You know, I tore the bichondral cartilage in my chest, and I remember the injury. Mild pec strain is what was written, or mild chest strain or something is what was written on that thing. And I mean, it still clicks and pops.
Give me your list of injuries that you've had in the NFL.
How long do we have?
I tore the cartilage in my left knee.
I have a half a kneecap right now.
Played a couple games on it, got worse.
Here goes my groin, my hamstring.
And then I hurt it again.
Tore the myelin ligament out of my shoulder, had surgery on that.
Everything basically tore.
Numerous hamstring tears.
Knee sprains.
2 surgeries on my left knee. 3 surgeries on my right knee. I've had 2 surgeries on this elbow.
With the obesity of guys after football, every year, gain weight, gain weight. It was either eat or you won't have a job.
I played with a broken ankle for 3 games.
Dislocated shoulder.
Dislocated shoulder.
Shoulder surgeries.
Pounding.
Ankle sprains.
I've torn this right pec.
Cracked kneecap.
I tore my left pec.
Broke the ulna.
My spine is straight. It should be curved.
Tore my quad muscle.
Pounding.
It kept breaking.
She twisted both my ankles.
I tore my knee up.
Sprained MCL.
Now, how did my ankles get twisted? and the man hit me in the chest.
Pounding, numerous stingers,
torn hamstrings,
dislocated shoulder,
both sides.
I have a lot of headaches,
constant headaches,
weakness in my legs,
could barely walk,
numbness in my hand,
hands numb, feet numb, sensitive to bright light,
mood swings,
my mood swings,
ripped out my
tore my
finger
and then
surgery,
ripped out my second
a bunch of little small
disc. And in my mind, I was thinking, I'm hurt.
How many concussions have you had?
How many concussions did I have? It's probably more than I can remember.
Totaled them all up, probably about 8 to 9.
Probably close to 15 to 20 times.
At least 10 times.
I've had my bell rung over 20 times.
Honestly, I don't know.
I've had a few.
Yeah, I had several of them.
I know I had a concussion every camp.
At least one dinger every game.
20, 25 times in a 10-year career.
From what they didn't tell us when we were coming in, probably 20 plus, easily.
Nobody knew exactly what a concussion was. You thought a concussion was when you would sleep out on the field or when somebody see your arm gets tight after getting knocked out. A concussion can be as soon as you see stars, or if you have a quick loss of memory after you take a shot to the head. A lot of times we call it ding, but you know, in the doctor's world, what we're learning now, it's a concussion.
So if you think about a concussion, it's a violent shaking of the brain inside the cranial cavity. When that happens, you can have multiple parts of the brain that might be impacted, and therefore you have neurons. We have billions of neurons within the brain, and depends on which ones are stretched that dictates the symptoms. But the hallmark symptoms are usually a headache, blurred vision, dizziness, concentration problems, balance problems. With the ones that are a little more serious, they'll sometimes develop nausea and vomiting, and those are ones we have to really be careful about. Loss of consciousness. I think it's really important to emphasize that while for many years coaches, parents, athletes focused so much on loss of consciousness as sort of that hallmark, that if there wasn't loss of consciousness, then they hadn't sustained a concussion. And less than 10% of all concussions involve loss of consciousness. So it's just important to point that out.
I think the layers that are going to be eventually peeled back from this is going to be remarkable when it comes to concussions. I think we're going to learn more and more about it, and it's deeper and worse than we ever imagined.
When I remember knocking myself out, now that I remember, they threw it to a guy in the flat, tight end, and he had at least 5-6 steps to get his momentum going.
I don't know if it was more of an inside zone play, and I bounced it outside, and I was, going towards the sideline to turn up the sideline. And of course, being a running back, I saw safety coming.
I remember hitting Mike Allstott one time when he was with the Bucks, and he's a big guy. And when I realized that he didn't have the ball and I was gonna have to make contact, I'm like, okay, well, I gotta thrust my body into him because I know what he is,
And we're coming around the bend, turning the corner behind the quarterback. And Will Fork was at the other end, so he flat out beat Mike Williams, and he's coming free to the quarterbacks. Quarterback stepped up on him. I got Mo and his weight going this way. I never seen him coming.
And as I lowered my shoulders in my head, we meet and just and the quickest memory to that was me being back in the huddle.
So I had my momentum coming as well. So you picture two guys running full speed. And so what I did was, I was always taught, see what you hit. And actually I did that, but I think he ducked at the last second, and actually my head coming in to hit him, he ducked, and actually his impact hit me right on the side over here by my temple.
I tried to drop my helmet, and then he hit me right in the side.
And he just put his helmet right here on me. It cracked my helmet and everything.
And I guess I kind of twisted around, and next thing you know, I just, it was just, I was stuck. And when I actually came to, I couldn't move, but my eyes could move, and I just looked down, and my hands were just up. And I could look down and saw my hands up, and I'm like trying to move them, trying to get some kind of mobility, and eventually I started hearing the coach calling my name more, and eventually I ended up getting up and coming out of it.
And I remember, little like lights and stars. Like, okay, I got my bell rung.
I was out. I got snuck, and it's funny now, but they said I was sleeping on the job.
When I got to the sideline, of course, the coaches asked me, the trainers, or the doctors asked me those, just regular questions. Where are we? What's the date? Who are we playing? Stuff like that. But the first question, I think it was like he asked me, it was just so simple. And I'm like, man, I don't know, But it put me back out in the game. So
after you couldn't answer any questions.
After I couldn't really answer any questions, it was more of hey, we got to go. We don't have another running back. The young guy got hurt. So who else is there to, I got a concussion. It's an unseen injury. It's something that you really can't see and you really can't diagnose right now on the sideline. So what's the chances? And they just put me back out there.
Of course, I was playing the next week.
Oh, so you did play next week?
Yeah, I played. I didn't practice all week, though, and I shouldn't have played the next week. That's the worst game I ever had in my career, ever.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How long did it take you to recover from something like that?
I don't think you do. I mean, I was okay. I was okay going back, you know what I mean? I think I had 2 more games that year. But that next game, it's like you 2-3 steps behind, you know what I'm saying? I played left tackle. I went that whole season, hadn't given up a sack, and now I was at 2 sacks.
Wow.
In the first half. You know what I'm saying? The guy running, I'm still on the line.
I came to a quarter late on the bench, and I was like, what happened? He was out of the game. I was out of the game until I eventually went back in.
I mean, you got to tell me I can't play. If I think I can play, that's cool, but I don't have no expertise in concussions.
After that game, when I went to get checked the next day, they just checked my neck to see if I had a neck injury. And of course, that came up clean. I didn't have a broke neck or disc or anything wrong, but they never investigated to see or to diagnose me to see if I had a concussion. So honestly, I played up until the Cincinnati game, which I think was probably 10 games later. So I played 10 more games after that initial hit. When I woke up the day before that Cincinnati game, and I had a migraine headache, and I just knew that morning I felt like I wasn't myself. Something's wrong. And I couldn't eat again. And I actually asked the doctor, hey, is there any way you can test for concussions? And he was like, yeah, we have to do the baseline test, of course. And he was like, we'll just do that tomorrow. And just as sure as that, after the game, the next day, I went to get checked out. I was on IR that night because I was diagnosed with post-concussive syndrome. But this came from week 1. And nobody ever checked me for concussions, And I just knew something was wrong.
And that was your last game?
That was my last game. That was it. That was the last one.
Guys are worried about it now because the ones who always knew they thought they get dinged, now you're finding out more information. You're like, damn, I had a concussion. And now you're seeing the stuff with Dave Dewis and you're seeing the blotches or whatever they say, like on the brain, like the damages and stuff.
Yeah.
That ain't by accident. They tried to charge a lot of that to the game by saying, well, that could have been just natural wear and tear of some of the older players back. No. Man, this is consistent. You know what I mean? So that's big for me. And it's so deep, it really makes you wonder, like, if I had a son, do I really want him to play this game?
There was no really big hit that caused me to start bleeding. It was just sort of a collection of hits, and then I went onto the sideline and passed out.
It was odd to see him walk off the field. He plays the 48 minutes, I guess, in junior and on JV, and I thought he just got poked in the eye. I was pretty calm about it until I saw him collapse, and then I ran over, and to see him shaking and kind of bubbling, and it was awful. And we we pieced together the concussion on the day before. after the fact, because I had asked him. He said he was fine. He looked fine. Did his homework and all that stuff the day before. And then I'm looking at him on the ground, and it was just awful. It's every parent's nightmare to watch, because I didn't know if he was paralyzed. I didn't know. And then they said they're going to get the helicopter, and it's just crazy. And I was just praying that he would be okay. It's scary when they tell you you're going to take a piece of your son's skull off. It breaks your heart to see your children, or one of your boys. They're the whole reason we do stuff, and we want to see him succeed, want the best for him, and to have him take this setback. I mean, it opened up a whole lot of things that how's this going to affect him going forward.
If you don't want the surgeries, if you don't want the cuts, if you don't want the abuse, you don't have to do this. This is not one of those things that people are forcing you to do. This is part of it.
This is what we chose to do. It wasn't like somebody held a gun to somebody said, you know what, you're going to play football. Well, no. You're going to play. It didn't work that way. These are choices that we made. And really, like with all of life, there are repercussions with everything.
We hear a lot of, we know what we signed up for. And as more things come out, the reality is we didn't know what we signed up for.
And I know to the fan, it's relative. You guys made all this money. You chose to do this. We did. We did. And we understand that there was health risk going into the game.
But we didn't know that we were signing up for long-term effects that were going to affect us long after our careers are over. And you have a responsibility to your teammates and to the kids that will come after you that plays the game professionally to always be safe and always know what you're actually signing up for.
Hell, if I'd known, I probably would have worked a little harder pitching that damn baseball, working on my fastball, my curveball, and that changeup.
You guys all start to play in the NFL or whenever you're Pee Wee League, and you're not thinking about, you do it because your dad did it or your brother did it, and wow, I want to be that when I grow up. You're not thinking about your health. But the NFL, I think that the head honchos and the folks that know about the league, they knew this was coming. I believe they knew this was coming. You're hearing about it because the players are having strokes and they're paralyzed and they can't walk, and we're seeing more and more of it. They knew this was coming.
What I hate about pro football is the hypocrisy. I hate the hypocrisy of saying that we're a team and we're a family, but once guys leave the game, the phone calls don't get answered anymore when guys are attempting to make that transition to life after football.
I remember sitting in some of the meetings with the owners and going back and forth about whose responsibility it was. Fighting, scratching, clawing for small increases in benefits for guys who weren't playing anymore. And hearing some of the comments that were made, and you're like, damn, I'm going to be one of those guys one day. Every guy in this room is going to be a former player one day. The way that they view former players, the way that they think about them, it's just not right.
They're putting out all in the presses about how they're taking care of the players more so than they have in the past. But a lot of guys are not being taken care of the way they should be taken care of. And the guys that's injured, that's trying to get their disability, they're giving them a hard time as far as doing it. And it's almost like they're waiting for some guys to die off so they don't have to pay them. And I've heard that a lot and read a whole lot about that, and I'm kind of living proof of that. And when I was turned down for my disability with the league, they telling me basically that my degenerative injuries wasn't football related. So I'm having to fight that.
When it comes to healthcare in the NFL, it's really interesting. You talk about a multi-billion-dollar industry where the cost for the healthcare of these guys who make the game, I don't care if they're pre-94s, whoever, 93s, I don't care who it is. These are the guys on which their backs the game was built.
Now, currently, you have a 5-year plan in place where you're covered after you leave the NFL, which we had at the time. Well, I left the game at 26, and at 30 years old, I felt fine. It was like as soon as that time frame was over, that gifted 5 years was when my body started to fall apart.
I think it's, 3 years, 3 games get vested. There were so many players there who had 2 years, 8 games, or 3 years and 2 games. One guy, the worst guy, who had 3 years, 2 games. He needed one more game to get vested. And he had the dementia, he had the injuries, he had all the stuff, and he couldn't get all the benefits because of one stupid game.
They had health insurance potential for guys like myself, and I applied for it and was turned down. So that didn't make me feel real well. I'm like, I'm gonna get me some good health insurance now, and even if I had to pay for it. But I was turned down as well as a lot of other guys I knew, so that was a big front.
It's still beneficial for them to have your former players singing your praises rather than have them cursing you to hell for not taking care of them. And you wouldn't have them those suicides on your conscience either, which has to weigh on somebody who made that decision to not give them the money, or on the other end of that phone and said, sorry, sir, we can't help you, knowing that there are things they could do.
Shame on the NFL that we're even saying what should they be doing. Shame on the NFL. You are a $1 quillion business. You are the biggest and the best of all sports, and you're not taking care of your own. Shame on you.
We have enough resources to take care of everybody if we really wanted to. So why aren't we? And that was, that's the question.
What was the answer?
Greed.
I don't understand how you can fine a guy X amount of dollars, but that same day you use that same footage for Monday Night Football to highlight the upcoming game. So basically you got double paid off that, because that same hit that you just denounced this man for and fined him and made him seem like a evil monster in the public eye, you're pubbing not him up, but the game of football, and like, this is how it's supposed to be played. This is what you should expect coming up against these two teams. Hard-hitting football. But at the same time, you're telling us to slow down. You're telling us to watch yourself, be careful, things like that. So it's a double standard.
It was the start of the second half, and he was doing his kick return, and it was like everybody was still filing and no one was really paying attention, and as soon as he caught the ball, it was like, oh, game started already.
I tried to maybe take an extra step, and then obviously the game's going so fast, everybody just kind of caught up on it, sped up on me, and then as I braced myself, there he was right in my face. And my initial reaction, just like last time, but it was even worse, I just ducked, I just buckled in. And it just so happened that he did the exact same thing with his helmet. And when he hit mine, it compressed my neck that much worse. And when you see it on film from the angle of the initial camera, the natural camera, you don't, you're like, okay, you got hit. But then when they flipped it around for me and I saw it afterwards on the other side, I mean, my neck just slinky. And it just went all the way in. And like, right when I got hit, everything went blank. When I hit the ground, a lot of people thought I was unconscious, but I was totally conscious. The only way I knew I was paralyzed was because my eyes were bouncing up and down on the ground. Not because I had hit the ground, because I was already on the ground, but because people were landing on me and I couldn't feel it. And I just, like, it looked like somebody was moving the camera up and down, and my eyes were doing that. And I was like, man, I'm paralyzed on the floor. And like, I'm thinking this in my head. I'm trying to say help, or like I can't move, but I can't even move my mouth. And then, like, stuff was flying in my eyes, and I realized I wasn't even blinking. And so everything was out, like everything, total feeling, total movement, everything was. I was incapable. I hear the fans, they're screaming, and I hear everybody jumping around on top of me. My head's still bouncing around, and all of a sudden, like somebody turned the volume down gradually, and you just hear people kind of get more in tune to what's going on. And then you hear somebody say, help, help, he's down, Hobbs is down.
Just started getting real serious when everybody came around and just kneeled around him, both teams. And you could hear like a pin drop through the whole stadium. And at that point I was yelling for him to get up. And I think people started realizing that, like, I had my jersey on and people were looking up the box and they realized that his wife must be up here. So all this is going on. I can see the people in the stands are kind of turning around and looking at the field and turning around and looking at the field. Like it got real to them because it was no longer just a player. I think they saw the family point of view.
And then immediately, right then, everything started coming back too. And they said on camera, I guess, they said my legs started shaking, my arms and everything, but I didn't really I didn't have control over them. It just like all of a sudden it just started working again. So almost like if you would go into a warehouse or a main switchboard and you start cutting things, that sound, everything just starts clicking back. So everything started working again.
And then I saw them bring out the stretcher, and I didn't think he was going to get back up. So they had put him on the stretcher, and I was just like, I was thinking, like he's not going to be able to play with the kids anymore. Just his dream that he worked so hard for just ended.
And so they flipped me over, and I'm thinking, okay, what's the next move? What's the next move? How do I let people know I'm okay? And so I started trying to move my feet a little bit controllably. I'm controlling my footwork now, so I'm moving my feet, and I give the thumbs up.
But I knew it wasn't a thumbs up that he was okay. It was a thumbs up that basically, like, I'm alive to me or his mother, his brothers, his dad that's watching. But where everybody was like cheering, yeah, he gave a thumbs up. It's not a thumbs up. It's never a thumbs up.
I'm rolling on the grass, and I hear the cheers, and I hear, go Hobbs, we got your back, man, this and that. But I knew exactly when the gurney left the grass to when that wheel made contact on the pavement to go underneath the tunnel. I heard the change. And as soon as it hit the tunnel, the whistle blew. And I said, they forgot about me. I say, I'm no longer cared about. Whatever prayer or whatever everybody was thinking about, it's actually transitioned back into the football game. And it was 1st and 10. Mike took the field, and I just, as I was rolling off, I was looking up in the sky. As soon as I heard the whistle, I just closed my eyes. I said, it's over.
I know he's trying to do like the workman's comp, and you would think, the doctors have said like his neck is okay, but say if he were to get in kind of a car crash, he'd be more susceptible to be paralyzed. So he needs to kind of get that other surgery, but we cannot get this other surgery because they keep delaying these rulings and trying to work out workman's comp. And they gave his next, this was last December. He went up there, it still couldn't get done, and then they gave us a date of next December. So they're trying to drag it out, and you would think somebody needs this surgery but can't get it until this is done. They would kind of move the process a little along, but they're stalling it.
This is the Eagles?
No,
or the NFL?
This is the NFL. So, no, I think they don't care anymore. You don't play for somebody, they no longer care. And I think the same thing happened, I'm going to get in trouble for this, but the owner of the Eagles never called him to see how he was, never said anything. Would pass, Ellis has told me he's passed by him, like when he went back to work afterwards, and still never said anything like, how you doing? You would think, that's like your head boss, you would be concerned. But I think it's more, we paid you this money and now we lost out on it because you can't play.
It's bullshit. That's the nature of the league.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel?
It makes me angry.
John Abadi, 5'11", 240, linebacker, and fullback. Every day for me, when I got to the league, was a game day. Because I was a fringe guy. I was trying to make the team every day. I knew that if I didn't go all out on every play, and I didn't knock the hell out of somebody, then I was going to be that guy that said, bring your playbook, the GM wants to see it. So every play was a game day for me. What I'm taught, and as a player, there's one way to get a coach's attention, period. Especially when you're a guy like me who's 5'10", not the most athletic guy. I mean, it's just reality, but a hard-working dude. This is how you get the attention of coaches. You knock the hell out of somebody. You will play if you love contact. That's the bottom line. That's the name of the game. And that's how I made my career. And now that's what I'm paying for. All the blows to the head. And at the end of the day, I asked myself, was it worth it? And Lord knows it was not. Coaches, this is their philosophy. If they can't see it, then it doesn't exist. So a bruised brain or a headache, that's nothing to them. You look up to coaches because they're coaches. And you think that they actually care or they're actually going to tell you what's best. But boy, do you figure out that there's only a few coaches that really do care about their players.
Did you ever stay out because of a concussion?
I only stayed out one time, and that was the end of my career. And I had a concussion 3 days before in practice, and the next day, terrible headache, couldn't concentrate, going through meetings. So I said, look, it's 3 days till the game. Let's see if I can get through it. First kickoff, ran down there, bam. Next thing I know, I'm in the hospital getting a CT scan. And that was it.
Let's fast forward to a typical bad day for you.
A typical bad day with me, I'll wake up and I'll have a massive headache. Usually right here on the left side of my head, I can pinpoint it. Sensitivity to light, unbelievable fatigue. Like just to walk is a tough thing to do on bad days. My list of pain pills starting freshman year of college would be Vicodin, Percocets, Toradol before every game. I never played a game without a Toradol shot since my freshman year of college. And to have to get shot up before every game and then find out from doctors that Toradol is the worst thing that you can do when you're having concussion issues. It's scary. You know what's frustrating, Dorsey, is I call the neurologist, I don't want to say names, but he is on the board, the NFL board. He's the head neurologist. I've left him 4 messages. How many times do you think he's called me back? None. Why is that? I mean, this is a guy who is supposed to be the concussion guru. I can't even get a hold of him. It almost seems like anybody related to the NFL or football, even college football, they're not willing to help. That's what's frustrating. You know, I think that obviously they've known about these issues for a long time, and I think they misled us. They held some information from us, and it's going to be losing a lot of guys at an early age. It's just the reality of it.
Suicidal thoughts?
I'd be lying if I said no. It's it's a hard thing to I guess accept or to tell you that I am. But yeah, it runs through my mind.
When you heard about Junior Seau, what crossed your mind?
You know, to be honest with you, am I gonna be next? It's something I don't want my mind to go to, but it's just a natural thing. Because when you add up everything, it's like, shoot, I'm having the same issues. And honestly, I think about my parents. And I think about my parents who, they have a daughter who has cerebral palsy, who they take care of. A little brother and son that died at 15 in a car accident. I think about at 26, in 5 to 6 years from now, are they going to have to take care of me?
After I left the NFL, I came an intern with the Detroit Lions scouting department, and just so happened Andre Waters was part of the coaching program. Interesting story, the first lunch that we had, I felt like a kid in the candy store. I'm sitting next to Andre Waters, and I said, Andre, you know, I modeled my game after you. I looked up to you. I'm a Philadelphia kid. And Andre looked over to me and he asked me, well, how do you feel? And I think about that question he asked me, you know, how do you feel? And now I get it.
I mostly started seeing a change in Shane a couple years after he retired. He would start to forget things that he normally wouldn't. He started to show signs of paranoia. He would think people were following him or that people were after him, and then he started to become more distant just with everyone, with, you know, friends that he had always been friends with. And then eventually, you know, he even started to become distant with the kids and was not as involved. I was able to convince him to go to the doctor because he was having horrible headaches. And we went to the doctor and they did a CAT scan and they saw a tumor in his brain. And it turned out to be a benign tumor, which they removed. And I spoke to the neurosurgeon, and he did tell me that, you know, this doesn't explain his behavior. He said, you know, this is a benign tumor, and the location of it doesn't explain the way he's acting. So the morning of January 21st, he, you know, woke up really early and he was, you know, acting very strange, pacing back and forth. And I told him that I made him an appointment for that day, and, you know, he was saying he didn't need to go and that, you know, someone had done something to him and he was going to go try to talk to them or go confront him. And this was actually a good friend of his, and so I tried to talk to him about it, and, you know, I said, you can't do that. You can't keep confronting people. You know, no one's doing anything to you. I tried to explain to him, and he just didn't believe it. He just believed that everyone was after him. And so I had gone back into the bedroom, and I was walking out of the bedroom. I was about to leave, and he had gone out to the garage. And he came in from the garage, and I was walking down the hallway. When he came in from the garage, he had a gun in his hand, and I saw the gun. And I saw it, and I ran towards the front door, and went to go, you know, run outside. And as soon as I put my hand on the door to go outside, I heard a gunshot. And he had turned into the kitchen and turned the gun on himself.
I feel bad for not only them and their families, because like you said, if a man commits suicide, how bad does he have to be hurting? How hopeless does the situation have to be? And part of that is the answers that he's getting on the other end of the phone when he calls up the NFL and is asking them, hey, I played for you guys for X number of years. I gave you everything.
Was the NFL there for him and after his years of retirement?
No.
Not at all?
No, and actually, and we haven't even heard from them. We've not even heard from the NFL since he was diagnosed, since they studied his brain tissue and he was diagnosed with CTE. So we have, you know.
We've never heard anything, nothing ever from the NFL through all this, or through this whole ordeal. Nothing.
No.
Obviously, you guys miss him terribly.
We do. We miss him terribly. And, you know, there are times, you know, that the girls, you know, important events in their life, that the girls, you know, are really sad that he's not there.
I talked to Broderick Thomas. He's an old linebacker, played for the Dallas Cowboys for a while, so you may be familiar with him, maybe not. I talked to him a couple of weeks ago to be interviewed, and he's in his early 40s, already been diagnosed with dementia. The conversation I had with him, I almost cried. I really didn't, because he was hurting. He wasn't right, and I could feel it. And I'm sure his wife is worried. I'm sure his kids worried. If you had a chance to talk to somebody's wife who's going through this, and you can see the path he's going down, it's clear as day where he's headed. What would you say to that wife?
You know, if I could speak to the wives, I would, you know, definitely tell them, you know, exactly what I went through and the progression, and you know, educate them on what I now know, and also to, you know, current players' wives, you know, to watch out for them during the games, and, you know, maybe try to make a stand for them to, you know, not play if they think that, you know, their husbands are being damaged. Because I know that, you know, Shane played through everything, and he wasn't educated in the concussion. He never talked about concussions. You know, he would say he got his bell rung, or he, you know, got a stinger, you know, blurry vision after games, terrible headaches. But that wasn't something that you could see in an x-ray the next day. So he just would go back out to practice on Wednesdays and hit heads again.
That's one of the things that has to be addressed and with the collective bargaining agreement, is that, in my opinion, when you look at the money that's in that pension, you know, and I think it's close to $1 billion, or was at one point in time, that's sitting there. Players should be insured for the rest of their life, because the reason we're finding out all of these things long term, you know, for example, I could not get insurance after my 5 years was up. So what I had to do was create a business and get a group policy underneath a business that I established in order to insure my family, which is insane, because what do we hear all the time? The reason you can't get insured? Pre-existing condition. Boy, I got about 12, 13 pre-existing conditions, including knuckles and joints and so on and so forth, that players are uninsurable. So if I had to say the biggest travesty of all of this, including, you know, whether it be the concussion issue, obesity, degenerative, whatever. To me, it's the insurance. There has to be a mechanism and a way to insure, in my opinion, every player who's played this game, because down the road, to your point, that's when stuff happens. When the warranty's over, because you're still in pretty decent shape 5 years removed from the game. But for the magnitude of dollars that are bought into this game, the magnitude of money that is sitting in the pension right now, that you and I and others were a part of, for those players not to be insured, I think is an absolute travesty.
Football is the sport of kings, sure as hell better than diamond rings. But if flying helmets ain't what they want from me, I'll sit right back and sing about my football days in Nashville, Tennessee. Are you ready for some real football? NFL. I wore their shield on my chest, but when I couldn't go anymore, they hugged me like the rest. and they don't give a damn. They'd rather kick you back on Uncle Sam. I love Jerry Jones. I want to be a cowboy. But he'd rather have crooks from video games and fire the great Tom Landry. And fuck Mike Martz, I never liked him anyway. Should have stayed my ass in New Orleans. We're in Florida